What's up? I am Natasha Bryant, your host here on Speak Like Transformation TV, and I am here to teach you, to give you the tips on how to be a high achiever without the stress and anxiety. So I am here, Natasha Bryant, your host. I'm a psychotherapist, for those who do not know, and a confidence mindset coach. I have a practice, a wellness, mental health, and mental wellness practice called Speak Like Transformation. And I'm all about helping you live your best life as your best self, unapologetically. And today, this is a shout out to all my high achievers, because I want you to live your best life as your best self unapologetically, and that will require you to remove the stress and the anxiety that is causing you to feel like you have to overachieve, overperform, and instead just reach your goals in a way that you can do that is stress-free. Let's first talk about the thoughts that connect with high achieving. This is one of the reasons why it can be stressful, is because how you are thinking about your performance, how you are thinking about your worth. And I'm just going to give you two examples of two types of thinking. So one is an example of all or nothing thinking. If you're not sure what all or nothing thinking is when another way to think about it, another word that people use is black and white thinking. So you may have heard of it in that terminology, but it's where it is all good or all bad. Either you are performing 100% and that's enough, or anything less than like 99.9 and less is not enough. And so you're constantly pushing yourself, pressuring yourself, expecting yourself really to work with perfection, to be perfect in everything and all that you do. Let's talk about why this is stressful. Because you're not perfect. Nobody is perfect at everything all the time. And so when you're requiring yourself, a high achiever is often requiring him or herself to be perfect at everything all the time. And a lot of times, because the thoughts are saying, this is what the thought process, the messaging, the feedback loop sounds like. I need to be perfect, because when I perform with perfection, then nobody can say anything negative about my performance. Therefore, people will see my worth, people will see my value, people will accept me. I will prove that I belong here, wherever that here is, right? But if I make one mistake, that just gives anybody the opportunity to say that I'm not enough. That gives anybody the opportunity to not believe that I have the skill set. I know what I'm talking about, right? And so perfection is a way to prevent that level of rejection, prevent that level of judgment, right, that you may receive from other people. But can we talk about the stress that comes with being perfect, where you're not allowed to make a mistake? You're pretty much telling yourself you are not allowed to make a mistake. You better not make a mistake. And when you do, you can become really critical on yourself about it. And so that level of expectations for yourself to constantly be the best all the time in anything that you do, or maybe it's a specific area in your life where you're like, I have to be at the top. I can't be, second, third, fourth. I have to be number one. I have to be with the top people in this area all the time. I can't be anything less than that. There's a level of pressure that causes stress and anxiety. And so the thing about being a high achiever, the positive thing, right, is because it's not bad to be a high achiever, because you are constantly pushing yourself to do the best, right? To be the best. You're constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, right? And that's not a bad thing. You're constantly pushing yourself to do more and to be more, not just to settle for something mediocre, right? You are definitely not someone who is about being mediocre, right? That's the good part. But your kryptonite is the type of thoughts, your mindset about what it takes to be a high achiever, what it takes to be a high performer. And then that mindset, those expectations, those unrealistic expectations then causes you to have stress and anxiety. And then you don't ever feel like you are ever going to be enough or you're ever doing enough because you're constantly moving on to the next thing, which goes to my second thought that often high achievers have. And it's this idea that I can't rest. I can't stop to celebrate my wins, because if I stop at any moment, I can become complacent. And I don't have time to become complacent. I have things I got to do. I got goals I have to reach. I got to get to the next level, right? And because of this idea that I can't stop to rest, I can't stop to celebrate my wins, I can't stop to just to kind of take in the successes or just take in this moment of what I'm experiencing right now. Because at any moment, if I do, I can become complacent. Because at any moment, I can fall behind everybody else, right? That fear then leads to you constantly going, burnout. It leads to you being in a place where even when you reach your goal, it ends up not being enough because you're already thinking, okay, what I got to do next? What do I have to do next? What's my next goal? Because I got to keep going higher and higher. And then there's no limit, right? There's a difference between not having a limit in a sense of limiting yourself to where you're not, stopping you from really reaching your goals. And there's a difference from not having a limit in the sense of never being satisfied, not having a limit. So you hear the difference between the two? Often, high achievers have the no limit in the sense of never being satisfied. So they're constantly reaching and there's no limit because they're never satisfied with their last win. They're never satisfied with their last success. It's never enough. And that can lead to burnout. That can lead to exhaustion. That can lead to just feeling unfulfilled. Because if you can never find a place where you feel like I did it or I am doing it, then it's hard to find fulfillment. And so those type of ways of thinking can cause stress and anxiety when you are a high achiever or a high performer. Now, you're probably thinking, Natasha, so what do I do? Like, I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel anxious every single time I'm doing something or I'm in certain places. Like, I want to be able to rest. Like, I'm trying to rest now. Like, I'm watching you trying to rest, but I'm already thinking about the next thing I got to do. And I'm telling myself that I shouldn't be watching this because I should be doing something else. Or while I'm watching you right now, I'm doing multiple things. I got to be doing multiple things because I can't rest. I got to make sure I'm ready for the next thing or I'm moving on to. Yes, I hear you. I see you. You're not alone. And the reason why I want to talk about this, because again, you're not alone. Through my work in therapy and confidence mindset coaching, I've often worked with high achievers feeling this level of stress and anxiety, feeling like they don't really know who they are or what they want, feeling like they're constantly doing a lot to feel enough, to feel like they are enough, to feel like they have a sense of belonging, right? And helping them learn how to keep parts of the high achieving, keep parts of themselves that likes to be a high performer. Because like I said, there's some good pieces with that. There's some really good nuggets with that you need to keep because it's really fruitful to your life. But how you can keep those and get rid of the parts that's causing anxiety and stress. Here is one way. Checking the facts. This is what I mean by checking the facts. Remember the two thoughts I gave you, right? One is saying that I have to keep performing at the highest level with perfection because anything less than that is not enough. And then there's the other thought that's like, if I rest, if I take a break, if I just take a moment to celebrate my wins, if I just take a moment to take in what I've been experiencing in my process and my journey, then I will become complacent. Checking the facts is challenging your thought process by asking yourself, how true is this statement? Is this statement that I'm saying to myself true or false? And the way you challenge to determine if it's true or false is by actually looking at your experiences, taking facts from your experience to challenge whether it's true or false. Not how you're feeling, because a lot of times our thoughts are being driven by our feelings. And the thoughts that I gave you, the examples I gave you are driven by fear. This fear of failing, this fear of being rejected, this fear of not being seen as enough, right? this fear of being complacent, right? And so that fear is what's driving those thoughts. But when you take a step back and actually look at the facts, examples is looking at who you are as a person. Examples is looking at past experiences where they're very similar to your present experience and how you were able to handle that situation, right? So let's start with just checking the facts with who you are. Listen, one characteristic trait, and you might find if you're a high achiever, this probably is right on the target of who you are. A high achiever is often someone who has self-determination. They have this intrinsic motivation. They're not lacking in being able to find drive. They're not lacking in grit. They're not lacking in finding the motivation to push themselves. They have all of that, right? That's why they're able to keep going. And you're probably like, yeah, Natasha, that's me. Like, it doesn't take me much to get up and go. If I have my mindset on something, I'm doing it. If I'm trying to achieve a goal, I'm going after it, right? So if that is true, that you have a strong sense of motivation and self-determination, then how true is this statement that if I take a break to pause or just to rest, if I take a moment to celebrate my wins, I will become complacent? As a high achiever, complacency is not a characteristic trait of yours. It's just not. And so for you to claim that to be who you are, something you would do, you would be lying to yourself. You would be labeling yourself as someone that you're not. You would not be honoring the self-determination that you have. That's a skill set of yours. You would not be honoring the intrinsic motivation that just automatically comes with just your temperament and your personality. You would be missing out on celebrating and respecting and honoring those as strengths. And so once you honor that, you realize, wait, knowing me, just because I pause, there's no way I would stop. I might stop for a moment with purpose, because I'm someone who is intentional. I have a lot of motivation, self-determination. So if I'm stopping, it's with purpose, it's with intention. And then once that intention is fulfilled, I'm moving on. I'm going to keep going. So checking the facts is one. Another way to remove the anxiety and the stress from high achieving or being a high achiever is getting rid of the perfectionism. Just remove this expectation that you need and you have to be perfect at everything. I mean, just saying out loud and just even thinking about what life would be like of you just taking that away. I want you to take a moment. Taking a moment. Yes, we're taking a moment. Yes. Take a moment to reflect on how much freedom that feels just by thinking about it. Thinking about removing the requirement to be perfect. Even if you don't even check the facts and you just remove perfectionism, the anxiety and the stress will instantly be gone. Because a lot of times that's what's really driving that anxiety, because it's this worry that if I'm not perfect, like I said before, that one thought, if I'm not perfect, then people will then be able to identify my mistakes or use my mistakes against me. And then they won't think that I'm enough. They don't think I deserve to be here, or they won't believe that I know what I'm talking about, right? But when you remove that pressure, like it's okay to make mistakes. Like everybody makes mistakes. I'm a human just like everybody else. I'm not going to be perfect at everything. And that does not mean that I do not belong in the spaces that I'm in. That does not mean that I won't be able to learn from my mistakes and do better next time. That does not mean I won't be able to get back up and try again. And then that goes to the third one, which is defining your worth based on who you are and not what you do. When you define your worth based on who you are as a person, your characteristic traits, your strengths, what you value, right? Your skill sets, right? When you base your worth on that and not based on your performance, not based on the outcomes of your actions, right? Not based on how well you've done something, how well you completed something. Then when you make a mistake and you're not perfect at something, you still recognize I still have worth and value. And even if someone wants to hold your mistakes against you, even if someone wants to make a comment about how you messed up in the area or how you didn't show up in a certain way like you've done in the past, right? You still recognize I still belong here. You still fight to show, you still fight to recognize that I still have worth and value. And you also let go of this pressure to prove to people that you have worth and value, because you recognize that your definition does not define who I am, and my actions do not define my worth and value. There's so much more to me than just what I've done and what I've accomplished. And so when you do all three, or even just pick one, you will immediately start to feel less anxious and less stressful about performing, finishing tasks, meeting goals, being in spaces, saying the right things, all those things that come up as a high performer. Imposter syndrome goes out the door because you're no longer trying to prove that you belong here. You're no longer trying to prove that you're enough, because you recognize, oh no, I belong here. And I check the facts. Like, I recognize who I am, and that regardless of what happens, right? Like, I can get back up, or I don't need to be perfect at everything. And actually, messing up just shows that I'm human, and helps me grow. Because then I realize, okay, these are my growth areas. So I realize these are the areas I got to focus on and get better at. Or, my worth is not defined by how I perform, because there's so much more to me than just what I do. Actually, who I am is way more important than what I do. And so when you put those three things together, you will find yourself feeling less anxious and less stressful. So I always end my conversations with a challenge. So my challenge to you is, I want you to just choose one. You don't have to do them all. High achiever. High achiever, I know you already are trying to think about how to do every single one. Nope. Nope. Choose one. Just choose one. And think about how it applies to your life and how you want to use this in your life to help you remove the stress and the anxiety when it comes to achieving and performing and just succeeding at life. If you're like, Natasha, this was great, I would love so much more from you. Well, listen, I have a whole email course that can walk you through ways to get rid of those fears. We talk about fears, right? Those fearful thoughts, how to really reframe your thinking so those fears don't stop you from doing the things that you need to do to live your best life, so that you can be a high achiever without the stress and the anxiety, right? And so I want you to visit speakliketransformation.com, click the link in the banner to be able to access this free email course. Well, I will show up in your email for 5 days, and every single day I will be dropping gems that will teach you a strategy a day on how to really overcome those fears, so that you can really go after that career goal. You can go after those dreams without feeling like you have to overachieve, without the pressures that come with high achievers. And if you don't go to my website, speakliketransformation.com, you can also click in the comments, the details below in the description below. I also have the link there as well. My website will also be in the description. If you just want to visit, you want to work with me. If you live in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and you need a therapist, I do have openings. So click the link in the description box to be able to understand how you can be able to get therapy services from me. Or if you live anywhere in the world, maybe you don't need therapy, but you need some coaching. You need a confidence mindset coach that can help you be held accountable with achieving your goals, help you have accountable to not perfect or not to try to prove yourself, but to go after your goals in a way that causes you to feel fulfilled and not stressed and burned out. And so if that is you, then you can also, we can work together through the confidence mindset coaching. That is all on my website. Again, that's speaklifetransformation.com. And as always, until I see you again, make sure you be bold, be safe, and speak life.